Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, the Horror Boy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today we're getting into The Lighthouse, which came out last year, around November of last year, and written by Robert Eggers, and starring, of course, Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe. Now, Robert Eggers, as a director, I'm already a fan of, and I've only seen two of his films, and I really dig his style, and I'll be honest, I know that there are people who maybe wouldn't like these movies or wouldn't get into them. They're definitely a different kind of horror. They're more my kind of horror, because if you're gonna go into these movies expecting, a fast-paced jump scare extravaganza, you're not gonna get that. You're gonna get something that's very much in the vein of Eraserhead, The Shining, those slow burn, really slow burn, just psychological horror films. It's more up my alley. I love psychological horror. It's my favorite subgenre of horror. And it's usually those are those movies that honestly scare me with horror. It's not zombie movies or vampires or ghouls or goblins or slashers. I love all those genres, but the ones that really get to me and creep me out are psychological horror. And I'm just going to say this right now, man. The Lighthouse is easily one of my favorite horror films from the 2010s. It's one of my favorite horror films recently. It's probably so far out of both movies, this and The Witch. I did a review for this film. I'll link in the description below. I did shoot a review of this film, and I will warn you guys, though, the audio and video is pretty bad. I mean, I know this isn't completely awesome audio and video, but it's a lot better than the review I did on this one. So if you do watch these reviews, or this review in particular, just know that the audio is very crappy, and the video is too. But I did do a review a long time ago on The Witch, and quick little story about this film. It was a movie that I'd never heard of before, and I went to the theater and we picked a movie, just a random horror film to watch, and they wanted to watch The Witch. And I was like, alright, I've never seen any teasers, trailers, posters of this movie, so going into it completely blind and being blown away. I remember seeing this movie in the theaters and it being a very intense film, very creepy and atmospheric. I love the time period they decided to make this movie in. I love the fact that a lot of it is up to your interpretation, and I will say it's a little bit more heavy in this movie than in The Lighthouse, because The Lighthouse you can kind of get a good idea of what's going on, whereas here a lot of it is just it's up to you. It's up to whatever you think happened. Was there really a witch? Was there not? You don't know. And it's kind of the same with this movie, but this one you can kind of go into a lot of directions with, but this one it's more up to your interpretation as well, but it's hard to explain. I just felt like this one was a more complicated plot, I guess you could say, because you're not too sure what the ending means. What does the ending mean, stuff like that. But I love The Witch, another one of my favorite horror films out there. I think it's shot beautifully. I think it has a great style to it. The acting, the cast, the characters, the time period, the dialogue, I just dug everything with this movie. And The Lighthouse, I must say, if you have not seen The Lighthouse yet, this will contain a bit of spoilers. I won't give away, well, I might just go into spoilers just head on. So, if you haven't seen The Lighthouse yet, this review will contain spoilers. So, just going to throw that out there, give you guys a little bit of a heads up. Spoiler review. But The Lighthouse, man, this movie blew me away. I seen the trailer for this movie around the time that I found out that Robert Pattinson was going to be Batman. And I'll be honest, when I first heard that, I didn't really know what to think, because I just didn't know how it would be pulled off and how you play the character. I didn't hate the idea. A lot of people hated the idea. They still hate the idea. But to me, it was just, I didn't see how it was going to be pulled off, how it was going to be played, how it was going to be done. I didn't know. And then, I think around a month later, month or two later, they released a trailer for this movie, and the trailer sucked me in. I wanted to see this movie so bad. Not only for the cast, not only for the director, but also because of just the way that it was done. There's not too many movies about lighthouses. I mean, I really can't say I've seen too many movies made about lighthouses, so that was very unique. And just not only that, but just the way that it was done. It's a black and white movie shot in a certain aspect ratio, and that might bother some people because it is pretty much a boxed aspect ratio. Doesn't matter how you see this movie, it's always going to be a boxed ratio. And it's in black and white. That might bother some people. Oh, it's in black and white. It looks old. I don't care about that. I love black and white. I can't get enough of black and white films. And I think with this movie, it really fit. And everything about the trailer interested me. From the cast, the two people being in this lighthouse, and the movie goes on from there, and you're basically finding out what happens to them. And the trailer just clicked with me. I just was like, man, I gotta see this movie. And it took a minute, but I finally watched it last night because I figured I'd watch some newer horror films that I haven't seen yet. Another horror film that I want to watch and maybe do a review on as well is Midsommar, which I'll be talking about that probably here soon. Stuff like Midsommar. I did shoot a review for us. I might try to get that uploaded or not, or just redo the review because it's an audio review. It's not really a video review, like me sitting here talking about it. It's more of an audio review. So I may or may not upload that. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, this movie, finally watching it, man, I really got into everything in this film. There's a few things that I had noticed that I could say are problems, but nothing that makes me go, oh, that's a huge, massive problem that ruins the movie for me. Just little things here and there, but nothing, like I said, I don't even really consider them to be problems. They're just something that I kind of noticed, little nitpicks here and there, but the movie as a whole, man, is just one of those films where I can see why it got awards. I can see why it got praise. I can understand why Robert Pattinson is being praised for this, and I honestly am very curious about his portrayal of Batman after seeing this. And as far as the Twilight movies go, I've never really been to Twilight. It's actually a really funny story with me and Twilight. I remember it was 2010, and Twilight New Moon came out, and being young and not knowing what Twilight actually was, like I didn't pay attention to what it actually was. I just seen it as, oh, vampires versus werewolves? Awesome. Like, let's go watch that. It's going to be bloody and gory, and everybody's like, nah, it's not going to be like that. I'm like, come on, man, they can't make vampires and werewolves lame. There's no way. It's going to be vampires versus werewolves, bloody, gory battles. I want to go see this. And we went and seen it, and yeah, I was very disappointed with that movie. It was not for me at all. I was sitting there like, this is a chick flick. Like, it was, I don't know. It was not really for me, man. I didn't really get into that one. I only seen one Twilight movie, and it was New Moon. I just was not really for me. But this movie, man, I really got sucked into. And the plot is very basic. You got a newly hired lighthouse keeper, him and William Dafoe, Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe. Robert Pattinson is this new guy, William Dafoe is kind of his boss, and Robert Pattinson is doing a lot of grimy, dirty, physical work, busting his ass, and William Dafoe is just, no matter how hard Robert Pattinson tries, he's always talking down Robert Pattinson, he's always tearing him down. I mean, William Dafoe does a good job of being an asshole, but also being a good character. Like, it's not just him being an asshole to the entire film. It's, you don't know if he's crazy, you don't know exactly what he is. Like, is he crazy? Is he just playing with this guy? You don't know. And it was very interesting to see that. And basically, these two guys, they get stranded on this little island with this lighthouse, because there's a storm, which means they can't get picked up and taken back to land. and there's this thing with seagulls. If you kill a seagull, it has the soul of, I guess, other lighthouse keepers and other fishermen and stuff like that. Other men of the sea, their souls are in these birds, and if you kill them, it's bad luck. And Robert Pattinson is a very likable character, very realistic, just a guy who is just doing this really rough work. You found out that he came from a background of working, timber, doing tree work and stuff like that back on land, and he came here to kind of have a new beginning. You find that his character has more of a darker past. He's kind of a guy who hides his past from William Dafoe. And the movie goes on, and they go crazy. And we're going to get into some spoilers here now, but just everything in this movie I thought worked. First of all, when I first seen that aspect ratio, I was kind of like, why did they choose that much of a narrow aspect ratio? Because it's very narrow. But when somebody explained it to me, why they chose that aspect, it really, to me, worked. And also, it worked as the movie went along. I really liked it. I started to really warm up to it. But somebody really explained it to me well, and that's pretty much, it's an enclosing gap. That you're seeing this thing. Everything is just such a tight quarters that it's claustrophobic. That's why it's such a close aspect. And it seemed like as the movie's going along, the aspect changes. Like it'll go from more to less, so it messes with you. And I like that. The black and white tone, or the black and white look, I thought was amazing. There are shots in this movie that look absolutely beautiful, that look absolutely haunting, that are very atmospheric, and I ended up loving that look. The time they captured this, the late 1800s, I believe, I think it's the 1890s, really captures that hard work it actually was back then to maintain and work a lighthouse. Because Robert Pattinson thought this entire movie is doing all this stuff to help William Dafoe, and all William Dafoe really does is sit in the top of the lighthouse and use it as a kind of a weird thing. You don't know what goes on up there until the end of the movie. And basically, William Dafoe goes up there, runs the lighthouse, and has Robert Pattinson doing all the dirty work. And as the movie goes along, touched on plenty of stuff. I mean, of course, Robert Pattinson has been on this island for so long that he starts fantasizing about this mermaid. That maybe he has some attraction to mermaids, or, that's his only link to, like, a female. Because they're just two guys on this island, and, he's just been there for so long, it starts to affect his mind, and so he kind of has this little statue. This little statue is like his one link to sanity. And just starts seeing weird stuff, weird images I thought were very creepy and unsettling. He finds this mermaid on the shore and begins to, touch it and caress it, and it screams. And you're just getting a big old collection of just shots of stuff going on. You see, maybe, did you see a tentacle up there? Like an octopus tentacle? You don't know. You got William Dafoe just spouting out crazy dialogue. And you kind of get the idea, and what I came up with is basically that, because you find out that Robert Pattinson's character has a past where he killed somebody and took their name and had a clean slate with this job. He pretty much wanted to start over with this job and get paid and move on and kind of become anonymous. But pretty much when he worked at the timber mill, a guy had fallen and died. And the only thing that he could think of was, I could use a smoke about now. I could use a smoke right about now. He didn't really care the guy died, so he took his name, moved on, tells William Dafoe this, and from there on, you got that great line, "Why'd you spill your beans? Why'd you spill your beans?" And what I kind of got from that in the ending was, maybe this is his hell. This is his punishment for doing what he did, killing this person, whether it was on purpose or by accident, and just taking their name and moving on, trying to get money. And this is his punishment. That he's stuck in isolation on this lighthouse island, constantly working, constantly having hallucinations, and all the things in his mind becoming realities. And him losing his mind also, but basically he's stuck in purgatory. And he's on this island. I know a friend of mine also had a good theory that maybe he would restart it. You know, it would be repeat over and over again. It'd be an infinite amount of time of him being on this island. It's just one of those things where it's not given to you outright. It's not like they actually say, "Oh, this is what's going on." It's just little clues they give you here and there. It kind of made me point towards this guy is stuck on this island. This is kind of his own private hell, and he's going to pay for what he did on this island. And it's a manifestation of his griefs and his... Kind of like Silent Hill 2, where it's a manifestation of his griefs, his sins, what he's done, and he'll relive it over and over again. And it's just a really creative film in that aspect. And the ending you can take in many ways, which that's what I got from the ending, where he kills William Dafoe's character, and he goes to the top of the lighthouse and finds out that there is this light. He looks into it and he screams, and it's a really creepy ass shot. I don't know why it creeped me out so much, but just the way it looked of him, and when he screams, it just looks unnatural. It sounds unnatural. When you watch that scene, you'll understand what I mean. It's a very creepy scene. And, you know, obviously he's seen something that terrified him. And it could be many things. It could be the realization of what he did. Could be the realization of, you know, where he is and why he's at this island and, you know, what's going on. You could interpret it in many ways. And the last shot of the movie is him laying there on this island on the shore, and seagulls are pecking at him, pecking his skin and stuff like that, and the movie ends. And you can interpret that many ways. That means that he's never going to die. He's just there forever. He's just going to constantly be torn down and tortured. And you could take it any way. You could actually take it... That's what's cool about this movie, is that if you want it to be more of a straightforward idea, it could be. Where William Dafoe is this creature, this sea creature guy, who is trying to drive our lead character mad, and he realizes it, and he's killed his other people that he's hired, and that William Dafoe is the bad guy. You could go that route. Or you could go the route where William Dafoe is in Pattinson's head. This is all in his head. This is just a manifestation of Pattinson's character's imagination. It's just so crazy. They even mentioned that where William Dafoe says, you know, you could be just some guy in the hills, in the snow, screaming and making this all up in your head. You know, this could not all be real. So what I love about this plot is that you could take it either way and it works. Either way you take it, it could work. The more straightforward way of Pattinson just going crazy, or the more complicated way of this is kind of his realm of torture, and he's going to forever be on this island, stranded. And it's a brilliant film, man. It's a film that I was really, really impressed with. So like I was saying, it's just a film that, for me, has a lot of stuff going for it. I love the aspect ratio. I warmed up to it after a while. I think it serves a good purpose in the film as well. A lot of the metaphors and stuff like that could be interpreted either way. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the acting and performances. These are definitely Oscar-worthy performances for me. I love the music and how the music really isn't anything too complicated, but at the same time, it definitely fits the movie like a glove. If I had any nitpicks, I would say probably some of the dialogue can be a little like not fitting the scene. There's literally a scene where they argue about William Dafoe's cooking and whether or not Robert Pattinson was cooking or not. I didn't really care for that dialogue because it's like a 10-minute scene, and that's literally all it is. It's about cooking, about food. And, oh, my food is good, tell me. And he's like, no. He's like, well, come on, I curse you. that the sea gods will kill you and you will be torn to pieces. I'm like, they're going on and on about this. It's about food. So yeah. And there's also a scene, I guess it's supposed to be a metaphor, but I didn't really think it was. It was just like, I didn't understand what it meant, you know? Because William Dafoe earlier in the movie is telling Robert Pattinson to bark. And Robert Pattinson's like, what? It's him like, bark, bark. And at the end of the movie, Pattinson tells Dafoe to bark. And Dafoe starts barking. And he starts walking and crawling like a dog, and he gets buried, and he's giving this speech while he's getting buried about the sea gods, and I was just like, what is this? So some of that stuff I thought was a little weird. Nothing bad, just a little weird. Another thing is that the movie sometimes is like one of those films where when it's loud, it's really loud. And when it's quiet, it's really quiet. To the point to where I had to put on headphones to watch this movie because I couldn't understand dialogue in certain scenes. You know, because it's such a low, it's one of those films where I couldn't turn it up to hear the dialogue because the next scene would be too loud. So I had to wear headphones to kind of balance it out so I could actually hear dialogue and stuff. But besides those few things, I think the acting is amazing, definitely Oscar-worthy. I think the cinematography is great, direction, the writing. I'm going to give Lighthouse a 9 out of 10. Absolutely love The Lighthouse. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it yet, this was the spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it, then I'm sorry I spoiled it, but if you have seen it, definitely let me know your guys' comments on this film in the comments below. I really enjoyed it. 9 out of 10 film, phenomenal film, just a masterpiece. Really enjoyed the film. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. The Explorer 4 is out. And I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye, guys.